Hi, and welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Taarika Foundation focused on youth mental health. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that all content that is found in our podcast is created for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this podcast. Thank you so much, and without further ado, let's get started.
Hi, in this episode of Taarika Foundation's Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving podcast, we are here with Mr. Vishal Sastry to learn more about his journey and experience from India to America. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast. Mr. Sastry, please share a bit about your background with our listeners.
Hi, so my name is Vishal Sastry, and I came to the U.S. from India when I was 9 years old, back in 1979. Before that, my parents and I had left India, and we had moved to England for about a year, and our journey brought us to the U.S. So it's been, 41 years that we've been here in the U.S. so far.
Wow, that's really cool. What is the exact reason that you came to the U.S.? Was it for school or for work?
Actually, I came because my parents moved here. My dad had both of his brothers living here, both in San Diego, actually, and they convinced him to move to the U.S. to be with them. So he's a doctor, and he found a work out here, and I followed suit with my parents.
That's really cool. Yeah. How did frequently moving from different countries shape your identity? Because you mentioned that you came from England.
Yeah.
Do you feel more connected to one culture versus another?
I think I do feel connected to one culture more because we move so much. I had gone to about 18 schools, different schools, by the time I graduated high school. Now, when I say 18, that also includes going from elementary school to junior high to high school. Those would be counted as 2, 3 of the schools. But I went to 3 different high schools. Like ninth grade, for one semester, I went to one high school. Second semester, I went to another high school. And then the longest I'd ever stayed in one school was 10th through 12. And because of all this moving, it helped me identify with one specific culture that I could keep with me every time I moved from one place to the other.
That is really fascinating. 18 schools is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question has 2 parts.
Okay.
First, was it easier or difficult for you to assimilate into American culture, and why?
I think it was easier. It wasn't too bad at all because even when I lived in India, when I was, up to the age of 9 or 8, my cousins from here would visit. So I had an idea of what life was over here. Then, having moved to England, I got another view of, what life was outside of India. I guess you could say the Western world and culture. So when I moved to the US, it didn't really create any difficulties for me. I think I assimilated pretty quickly.
Yeah. Then the second part is, what about your beliefs or cultural norms did you have to adapt or change if applicable?
I think, I don't know about beliefs. I don't think I changed any of my beliefs really, because, those beliefs are what my parents have taught me and what we teach our kids. So we keep beliefs from the day we're born till the day we die. As far as cultural norms, my parents taught me, we're Hindu, so we follow Hinduism, and we would go to temple. We would pray at home. So I I never encountered anyone here asking me to change my views or beliefs or cultural views. It was more that people learned from what we were doing as a family or a community, and these people actually changed to understand our views and beliefs.
That is really nice. Yeah. I never really thought of it that way. Okay, what do you think are the challenges in raising your children in two different cultures, Indian and American, and how do you overcome these?
So it is a challenge. Not as much as a challenge as it was for my parents, because my parents, when they moved here, like all immigrants, they'd only seen one lifestyle, and that was the culture and beliefs that they had in their country. And for us, who grew up here mainly, we got to see two different cultures: one from our homeland, and one where we were now our new homeland. And we could look at both the cultures and mix them together, instead of just saying, hey, this is the one view of the world and this is how you're going to follow it. My generation, like I said, we were able to and are able to mix both cultures and take the best out of both cultures and teach our kids the same values and have them follow those mixed values.
Right, yeah, that's really fascinating. I kind of had the same experience as well because my parents are from two different countries as well. My dad is from Europe and my mom's from Asia. And so
Okay.
I definitely agree with the blending together of cultures and taking the best out of them.
Exactly.
Do your kids question you or do not want to follow your culture or belief system?
My kids personally actually have never questioned us. We've never pressured them into, saying or telling them you're Hindu and you're going to follow these specific rules, and if you don't follow them, you're in trouble with in whatever means of punishment that may be. We did teach them, but they also learned from observing what we did. So if we, prayed to the gods in the house, we didn't make them stand next to us and pray to the gods, but they would see it on a daily basis. So then they started following in our culture in that sense. If we go to the temple, they are more than happy to join us to the temple. If there's times they don't want to go to the temple, we don't argue and say you have to go. Like I said, they never argued against the culture. They've actually embraced it, and they realize wherever you go in the world, everyone takes their culture along with them. For example, if a person from Romania moves to Japan, they'll assimilate into the Japanese culture, but they're still going to have their Romanian values,
Right,
um,
yeah.
and their children will as well. And that's what our children have learned over the years.
That is really nice. Yeah, especially just letting them not be pressured into anything, just letting them observe and if they want
Exactly.
to, that's fine. Yeah, it's great.
We have seen parents who will pressure their kids that you have to do
Yeah,
this,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and that's when it's human nature. That's when kids or even adults, they want to do the opposite then.
Yeah, absolutely. Even I have some friends whose parents are like that, and
Exactly.
they're my friends and parents are struggling a little bit, but they're trying to work things out. So it's great that you and your children have less pressure around conforming to
Exactly.
certain things and just letting them express themselves and do whatever they feel like is best for them. So yeah, that's great. Yeah. As a follow-up to the previous question, how
Mhm.
are you helping your children experience the culture and values that you grew up with? And why is it important for you to ensure that your children experience your heritage?
Okay, so we from the very beginning have spoken to our kids in our native language. So in India, each state basically has its own languages. So there's about 26 states, but there's actually more languages than that, with dialects in different regions in different states. So we come from the state of Maharashtra, where Mumbai or Bombay is, and we speak
Mm.
a language called Marathi. Uh,
Ah, okay.
so we from the very beginning, we spoke with our children in Marathi, and anytime they would try to speak to us in English, we would not respond. So we realize once they go to daycare, once they go to school, they're gonna speak English, and that's fine. They have to learn English, but until then, we'll instill the Marathi as language in them. And to this day, they both understand and speak Marathi really well. So the reason that helped was, even though I grew up here, my wife grew up in India, and her most of her family's in India. So we go to visit her family, my relatives in India as well. But when my kids visit with us, they don't feel awkward, or they don't feel like they're going to get bored there, because they speak the language. And because they speak the language, all their cousins enjoy being with them. There's communication. How we instilled our culture in them is by taking them to India almost every year or every other year, and spending, at least 3 or 4 weeks at a time, where they would see what life is there, what the culture is like there. And when we come back here, they continue on with those same traditions. My parents live close by here, so they get to see their grandparents, on a daily basis, actually.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so yeah, we actually have dinner at my parents' house every night.
Oh,
Um,
that's really nice.
yeah, so the six of us, they live about 5-10 minutes from here. My mom cooks still every night for all of us, so we go to her house or their house, and the kids love going over there, and that's how they learn about our culture, and that's why they're seeing our culture from two different generations above them. So it's instilled in them, and that's why they want to continue on with the
Yeah.
beliefs. Yeah,
That's really nice how they get to see their grandparents every night. Because
yeah,
especially during COVID, that's something that you can't really do. But
exactly,
it's the advantage of having your parents and grandparents live really close to you. So that's
exactly.
that's really sweet that they get to see them. Okay, and these last two questions will be tips for our podcast listeners. So the first question is, what is your message to teens who are listening to this podcast?
Um, my message to the teens who are listening to this podcast is, listen to what your parents are telling you. Don't listen to them thinking that they are telling you to do something. You know, they're asking you to listen and observe. Like I told you how my kids did it. We never forced upon them, and I know most parents don't force upon their kids their culture. So the parents are trying to do good by showing you what the future is like. The parents have great experience, with everything, good and bad things. Just my advice is, listen to what your parents are saying. Try not to take things in a negative fashion, negative manner. Um, Try to see the positive out of what your parents are trying to tell you and teach you. Um, it comes from not just, you know 40-50 years of their experience in life. It's actually coming from generations above them, 2, 3, 4 generations above them, that's giving you the advice that your parents have learned from their ancestors. um, and I believe, if you just have an open mind, life is easy, just for both parents and kids.
Right. Yeah, that's some great advice, and I will definitely take that into consideration as well. And last but not least, what is your message to all parents who are listening to this podcast?
To parents, what I know, every parent wants to hold on to their past, their history, their culture, values, and we want our kids to be a lot like us. We want our kids to listen. We want prosperity, safety for our children. But sometimes I think, as parents, what we try to do is we try to push our values and our culture too much on the kids by saying, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that. This is how we did it back home, or this is, how our relatives do it. Children are at a point in their lives where they're, trying to assimilate in two different cultures, and they have one culture at home, and then once they leave their home and go to school every day, they have another culture that they have to deal with. So it's difficult on the kids if we as parents try to force certain things on them. Let Guide them and let them, make their own decisions into how they want to continue culturally. But you just basically have to continuously teach them. You can't tell them that, you know our culture is the best. uh when you go to school and you hear these things, um set them aside. They don't matter. Everything matters. It just, what do you want to show your kids as being more, I guess, important as you grow older, as children?
Right, that is amazing advice. And I will definitely let my parents know as well so they can learn from you.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know if they might have better advice than I do. Some
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Saste. This was amazing to hear about your experiences and how you grew up in the United States and how you're helping your kids assimilate into American culture and giving them that balance as well. So
No,
thank you so much for your time.
you're welcome, and thank you for having me and letting me share.
Yeah. So in this episode of Taarika Foundation's Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving podcast, we spoke with Mr. Vishal Saste about his rich background and perspectives of growing up and living in different countries. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Please check us out at taarika.foundation for more podcasts and resources, and have a wonderful day.
You are listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Taarika Foundation. As part of our youth series, we will be releasing new episodes every Friday, so make sure to continue to check those out. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you so much for listening.